Okay, let's jump into our deep dive. Today we're looking at Genesis chapter 13.
Right. And this is right after Abram and Lot have come out of Egypt. Things have changed for them financially.
Changed is putting it mildly. They've become incredibly wealthy. The text mentions, huge amounts of livestock, silver, gold.
Just loaded with possessions. And maybe surprisingly, this massive wealth actually becomes, well, a problem.
Yeah, it leads directly to conflict. They're back near Bethel, sort of the area where Abram had built an altar before.
Mm,
But the land itself just couldn't cope with both of them and all their stuff.
exactly. Too many animals, too many tents, too many people managing it all. They had, well, simply too much to stay together in one place.
And it wasn't just abstract tension. The text specifically mentions quarreling between their herdsmen.
Right. The guys managing the flocks and herds were fighting. And you have to remember, they weren't alone there.
Good point. The Canaanites and the Perizzites were also living in the land at that time, so space was already kind of at a premium.
It was a crowded situation, really ripe for disputes over resources, like grazing land and water.
What I find interesting is Abram's reaction. He sees this conflict brewing, the quarreling.
And he steps right in. He goes to Lot and basically says, look, this fighting isn't good.
Let there be no quarreling between you and me, he says, or between your herdsmen and mine, for we are close relatives, like brothers.
He takes the lead, proposes they separate peacefully, and he does something quite remarkable.
He gives Lot the choice. He
Uh-huh.
says, isn't the whole land before you? Let's part company.
If you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left. Total freedom for Lot to pick what he thinks is best.
So Lot, what does he do? He looks around.
He literally lifted up his eyes and saw the whole plain of the Jordan, and it looked fantastic.
Yeah, the description is amazing. Well-watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord.
Or even like the land of Egypt, which, was famous for its fertility thanks to the Nile. It looked like the prime spot.
So, based purely on that visual appeal, that lushness towards Zoar, Lot chooses it. He heads east.
And Abram stays in Canaan. Lot settles down among the cities of the plain, pitching his tents near Sodom.
And the narrator adds this really crucial, almost ominous note right there.
Oh, yeah. It explicitly says this was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah.
And then immediately adds, now the men of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord.
So Lot, chasing the best-looking land, ends up right next door to a place notorious for its wickedness. It sets up future problems, obviously.
Okay, so Lot makes his choice based on sight, heads east. Abram stays put. But then, right after Lot leaves, something huge happens for Abram.
Yes, this is key. The Lord speaks directly to Abram,
Tells him to do the same thing Lot did, in a way, look around.
but with a totally different purpose. Lift up your eyes from where you are and look north and south, east and west.
And then comes this incredible promise. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever.
Not just some land like Lot chose, but all of it, in every direction, and not just the land.
The descendants. An unbelievable promise about offspring.
Exactly. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth. Basically uncountable. If you could count the dust, then you could count his descendants. It's immense.
Wow. So Lot chooses a piece based on sight. Abram is promised the whole thing by God.
And God doesn't just promise it. He tells Abram to engage with it physically.
Right. Go walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you.
It's a command to sort of claim it through walking it, experiencing it.
Yeah.
It's an act of faith, really, based on God's word, not just how green the grass looks.
Such a contrast. Lot sees, chooses, moves toward Sodom. Abram hears, believes, is promised everything, and is told to walk the land.
And Abram obeys. He moves his tents again.
Where does he go?
He settles near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, another significant location.
And what does he do there? He builds another altar to the Lord.
Yes, an act of worship. Right there in the land he's just been promised. He's living in the promise, you could say.
So the chapter ends with this really stark difference. Lot near Sodom, Abram at Hebron, worshiping.
It really lays out two paths, doesn't it? Choosing by immediate appearance versus trusting a divine promise, even when it involves waiting and walking.
It certainly gives you something to think about. How do we make our choices? Based on what glitters right now, like that plain near Sodom.
Or based on deeper promises, maybe things unseen, requiring faith, and, well, maybe a bit more walking. And what does it say that the place that looks so good was actually right next to such profound trouble? That's definitely worth reflecting on.